Shannon's here to lead a workshop focusing on creating a marketing plan for your business. As we learned last week, Shannon Kinney is a seasoned startup founder and executive of over 25 years of experience. She's considered a thought leader in the online space and is highly sought after keynote speaker, advisor, and consultant. Please help me in welcoming Shannon Kinney.
Hey, I don't know about you guys, but I have so much energy hearing what Rich was talking about and so many ideas there. And we didn't plan it this way, but what's really awesome is how he ended is such an important part for you all to be thinking about, which is what makes you remarkable. And, that's such an important part. All this other stuff that we talk about is like the plumbing of how it all works. But really, that's something that only you know and that you know best. And what our work is about tonight is really that section of your marketing plan, which is really honing in on what makes you remarkable, or another way of saying it is your brand promise. So I love it. And Amanda just put in the chat for you all to start sharing what makes you remarkable. I think it's a huge takeaway for what Rich said, and I'd highly recommend you to check out his deck when he sends it. The book that Rich recommended, I put the link to it in the chat so you can see it because it really is just fantastic. So thank you, Rich. I'm really excited I get to present together with you today. So today, as I said, we're going to talk about the brand promise. And this is the part of helping you write your own marketing plan. Our mission in this course, this 9 weeks, is to help you write your own. Last week, we went over a lot of info, which was really the outline of what your marketing plan would be. And now in our future weeks, we're going to dive in on a little section so that you can really master that piece. And today is the brand promise. Last week, we also covered some industry trends, the importance of your plan and how you're going to use it once you have it, bringing your assets together, which you heard Rich talk about right in the beginning, and he's so right. Like, you need to understand and make sure that your business cards and your email and your website and your social all works together, your signage in your store, the trucks, everything else that you have, bringing your assets together. And so you'll see all of that data in the deck that you received last week. And then I also gave you the outline of your marketing plan, and we walked through some of these sections don't matter to everybody, some do. And the most important sections are the ones we're actually going to dive into. And this week, we're going to talk about that brand promise and why does it matter. I've got an exercise to help you create your own, and don't worry, it's not complex. And you could do it on a piece of notebook paper or a document, anything that you want. I'm going to give you a quick cheat sheet for that. And then, I got a lot of questions sent to me after last week with folks that were really trying to simplify, can you help me tell my story? Or can you help me get to what makes me remarkable? And I've got a quick exercise, like some inspiration for you to get there. Don't worry, this is bite-sized, manageable. We're going to make it work. Then we're going to talk about how do you relate your story to your brand promise and get you a quick way to create yours over the course of this week. Here's a couple questions that I got from session 1 that I just wanted to jump into. A lot of you, I answered you via email. And by the way, thanks for sending them to me. I'm happy to help out. My email is going to be on the last slide here, or pro tip, it's shannon@dreamlocal.com. Pretty simple. But here are a few I wanted to go over. One that I got was really feedback saying that I want to focus on defining my business's value proposition, what's unique that I offer clients and help bring them value. That is definitely this session. So I didn't answer you back like a big long email about it because I knew that we would cover it in today's session. So you're in the right place in your headspace. A nice comment was that the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats process and setting smart, measurable, achievable, retainable, and time-bound or SMART goals are a starting point for your business plan. Straight up, that is true. It's going to help you with your marketing as well as many other aspects of your business. And so you're definitely, I'm glad that that resonated with you, and we're going to have sections just focused only on that, which will be great, which is simple. I also heard from a few of you that either your business is tiny or you're a startup and you wanted to make sure that what we're talking about applies for you. And it does. If you're a one-person craftsperson selling your own product, or if you're a multi-person company, the basics and the principles that you learned last week and that you're going to learn in this 9-week course, and also that you heard from Rich about, definitely apply to you. It's just about scale. You may have a lower list of target audiences. You may have a much more straightforward set of goals. But what we're talking about today applies to any business, whether you're just starting up or whether you're small versus big. But if you have any specific questions that make you want to make sure it relates to you, go ahead and hit me up in the chat box as we're going through, because I want to make sure that you feel like it's applying across the board. I think you're going to like today's exercise about developing your brand promise, because you'll find that it's going to apply to all of you, no matter what your size. And then the last one I got was where to put my energy around my marketing. And I think, you know, you heard a lot from Rich today about the different types of targets. I'd say when we think about where you're going to prioritize your time, which is, by the way, our last segment in the 9-week course is about priority setting and measuring your results. What I can share with you is it's going to have a lot to do with where you see the greatest opportunity and what your goals are, which of course are going to drive opportunity as well. So we're going to make sure that you definitely feel that you know where to put your energy. Today, I think it's going to be around what makes you remarkable. But before I jump in, I wanted to just open it up really quick to see how people did. The only real thing you had to do for your homework last week, there were 2 things you were asked to do. One, gather your assets, which you'll notice was the first thing Rich said too. Make sure you have your hands around all of your assets. So hopefully if you didn't get a chance to do that, you'll take a few minutes to do that over the course of this week. The second thing you were supposed to do was find some tool that works for you, whether it's Word, whether it's Google Docs, whether it's a notebook. Find some tool that works for you to start creating the framework of your marketing plan. And I gave you an outline to use, and we went over the pieces that probably matter most to you, but I hope that you have some vessel to put in the great work that you're going to be doing over the next few weeks. So what we'll jump into now then is getting right into today's exercise, which is your brand promise and what you think your brand promise is. And really a brand promise, I just want you to think about this. It's what Rich said, what makes you remarkable? And what promise are you making to your customers? What makes you unique? So what's, you know, the promise is really what's your unique offering and who is it for? When you think about the performance, is how are you going to deliver this? Like, are you fast? Are you always guaranteed pricing? Are you the highest quality? Like, what about your unique offering in your delivery also makes you unique? And then finally, positioning, which is how are you going to communicate this brand promise? And all of these aspects together make really that what makes you remarkable that we're going to be helping you pull together today. And this is something I want you to think about broadly in terms of your offering. And for inspiration, because sometimes it's really hard, especially in a webinar setting or with a large group like tonight, to really talk about your brand promises in a group setting. We're going to actually go through an exercise that I hope makes you think about your brand promise. And so this is going to be about you. And I want all of you to get in your mind, put on your I'm my marketer hat and be ready that this exercise is going to help you find yours. And really what our focus is what is your story, so that we can get to the root of your brand promise. And when you think about your story, let's not think about marketing for a minute, because I know that marketing can be overwhelming for many of you, and we got a lot of questions from people that were feeling a little bit overwhelmed. Here's what I want you to think about. Any movie, any book that you love, every movie or great book has 7 universal story points. And by the way, they apply to marketing too. So I was trying to think of an example that was less marketing nerdy so that you could really get into the zone. So every movie has 7 unique story points. It has a character, a problem, a guide, a plan, a call to action. Then we have the scary arc where we help them avoid failure, and then they end in success. And I would encourage you, I don't care what movie you watch, you can start seeing them go through some level of this arc. So now let's do it for you and your business. It starts with a character. And I would encourage you to remember that the character isn't you in what we're going to do. The character is your customer. I want you to make your customer the hero of your story. So who is yours? Get in your head and think right now about, we had talked a little bit about getting to know your target customer. And by the way, that is going to be one of our segments in this session. In your head, picture your customer in your head. You know, who are they? And remember what Rich said. It's not everybody who's hungry and needs to eat at some level near that restaurant. It is who's really the target customer for that place. So I want you to think about your hero, which is your character. Now, your character has a problem. Successful companies are going to really help attend to the inner frustrations of that customer or address their needs. In Rich's example, he referred to a Mexican restaurant that appeals to families and in South Portland, I believe. So that is a specific target customer that is looking for something to do. They like Mexican food. They live probably within 5 to 10 miles of that particular restaurant, and they're looking for certain levels of ambiance or atmosphere for their family. So when you think about your character, the hero of your story, which is your customer, then you start thinking about their problem. This is the problem that you're going to solve with your brand promise, and it might even be part of your delivery. Are you fast? Are you guaranteeing it? Do you have extra seats, games for the kids, or maybe that screen on the table, or coloring, or how are you addressing the challenges and opportunities that your customer brings to you? And how are you a resource? And that was a lot of what you heard Rich talking about with some of the keyword searches, like all the different ways that you help a customer. So think about your customer, think about what's their problem. So step 3, then they meet a guide. It's either another character in the movie, it happens to be some superhero in the movie. In our case, the guide is you. So how are you a resource for your customers? Like, what is it that you do and provide, whether it be directly in your service? Is it a way that you deliver the service? Is it the convenience? Is it the speed? Is it guaranteed? Is it how detailed it is? Like, how are you that resource? And also, another good thing to really be thinking about is how are you uniquely qualified to be their guide, right? Like, what is it that makes you the one? And sometimes that's hard to think about when you're thinking about just like a marketing assignment, but really think about your customer as the hero, and then you're going to come in and save the day. What is it you do? Make a list of this stuff, because no matter whether you're doing it, you know, you're writing a print ad, you're writing your website copy that Rich, you know, really talked through the importance of that on your website, which is so true. How are you uniquely qualified? So you're the guide, and that's going to help this person solve their problem, and you're the one. Next thing is the guide has the plan. And honestly, I swear to God, after I started really working on this outline, now every movie I watch, I'm like, oh, there's the plan. It's true. This is, by the way, this outline comes from the art of writing a screenplay, which works really well. But anyway, who has a plan? What is the plan you give your customers, you know, to solve their problems? What tools or resources do you offer them? How do you help them? And use their language, not yours. I mean, really get in the zone of your customer as the hero and talk about how you're their guide and you are solving their problem with your plan in their language. A lot of times I work with groups on an exercise about this, and we'll actually not even look at their website. I'll have them like making notes. And at the end of the session, I have them stand up and I say, who's your customer? And they'll say, what's their problem? Or who's your hero? What's their problem? How are you their guide? What's your plan? And they just write one sentence for each one of these steps. And so after today, really go through this process, because you'll find that if you answer in 1 or 2 sentences every one of these slides, when you're done, you're going to be very close to your brand promise. So the plan is what you lay out for them, what tools you give them, how you help them, and you use their language and not yours. Just to give you another, somebody just commented about the analogy in the chat. Think about the hero as being Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, right? Her problem is she just wants to go home. She just wants to go home. She meets a guide, and actually she meets 3, which are the little folks who take her on the line. So we have the Cowardly Lion, the Tin Man, and the plan is we're gonna follow this yellow brick road, right? Like, so you're getting the analogy. And I want you to think of 1 or 2 sentences for each steps here, and we're gonna get you to the end of your brand promise. So make sure you're using their language, not yours. And by the way, that's gonna help a lot with SEO too, which you heard Rich talk about earlier. 5, you call them to action. Okay, we're actually gonna go down this yellow brick road. Here we go. So how do you get your customer to take action? Like, what is it you're asking them to do? And what is it you help them accomplish? You've given them a guide, you've got a plan, you're a series of resources. What are you doing to help them get there? So this is the call to action. And in your case, it could be subscribing to your email list. It could be buying from you. It could be working with you to solve that problem directly. It could be coming into your store and asking for advice. Like, what is it that you're doing to call them to action? And then in the end, you're helping them succeed. How does your work help your customers succeed? And again, use their language, not yours. So really quick, I'm just gonna go back through it again. 1 or 2 sentences. Who's the hero of your customer? Who's your customer? And what are they like? What is their problem that you need to help them solve? And by the way, make sure you really understand this problem. And if this feels like an area that you don't know enough about, spend some time and talk to a couple customers or potential customers. This is not a step to skip. So what are 1 or 2 sentences about what that problem is? How are you the uniquely qualified guide to help them solve it? What is your plan to help them? What tools are you giving them? How are you helping them? How are you a resource? And how are you calling them to action to help them accomplish that goal, which is getting to the end of the yellow brick road, or writing, giving their credit card to you. And then finally, you're helping them succeed. So how your work helps them succeed. So this is just a little non-marketing exercise to have you go through. This is also, by the way, an exercise we use not just in brand promise development, but in content development. And you heard Rich talk about how important it is to have some really good topics to write about. Keyword research helps a lot. And also some sort of framework like this really helps you pull that all together in a really unique way. Oh, thanks, Jessica. You're right. Their language, not yours. Super important. And then finally, let's talk about how you take it from story to glory. Okay, now you've done this exercise. You got a few notes there. You're starting to feel good. I might have a brand promise coming together. What am I going to do with this thing? So your brand strategy about like what your offering is, what makes you remarkable. You think about that and your customer's pain points. That really helps you start zeroing in. How am I going to use marketing to help here? And by the way, a lot of people think about marketing as advertising, and advertising is just one part of marketing. Marketing is also how you have your customer service people or answer the phone, or the fact that Walmart has a greeter in the beginning. Like, that's marketing. So think broadly about marketing as well. Like, don't just pigeonhole it into only the advertising that you're doing. It's what's your value proposition and how are you making those customers feel it? And one note I really loved about Rich's presentation was at the end, which was don't forget to keep marketing to your existing customers, you know, like not just new customers and acquisition, but how am I keeping this story going and making sure that my existing customers still feel like the hero, that they still see my plan, that they still know I'm helping them succeed on an ongoing basis. So you get your strategy together, then in digital marketing, then you're just you're putting your words together, you're putting your content together, you're using the different channels like we heard about today, email, search, social, your website, and more. And then that really creates this customer experience that you're trying to create, which is how you take your story to glory. So if you aren't jamming with my movie analogy, I wanted to give you a one-slide worksheet and use a company that I thought you would recognize, which is Harley-Davidson, when you're building your brand promise. So complete this sentence, the only, which is the what that you do, and in the case of Harley-Davidson, it's the only motorcycle manufacturer, that, which is your category that makes big, loud motorcycles, or, which is your customer, macho guys or macho wannabes, in market geography, which is mostly in the United States because they really don't have dealerships outside of the US, in an era when or trend, which is in an area of decreasing personal freedom, right? So this is a common exercise that actually you can find on Harvard Business Review, and it's one that a lot of us did in college. For those of us who actually took marketing in college, this is a really common framework. My story analogy was trying to get you to be really creative, but this is a really straightforward way also to build your brand promise. Step 2 is, what is it my customers value, which again is what's the problem that you're solving, or what is it they care about, they're motivated by. Are they motivated by physical fitness and they want to be strong? Is it that they're motivated by saving money? Is it that they're motivated by good value? What is it that what motivates them, or that is something that they care about in the experience? Emotional draw, you know, is what is it you make people feel? Do you make them feel like they learned something? Do you make them feel like they save money? Do you make them feel like they finally found somebody who can solve this problem for them? Are you convenient and you make them feel like they save time, which is a huge draw right now? And then finally, your message, which is, you know, sort of how you tell that part of that story. That's, you know, all of the things that we're thinking about really need to come down to those pieces. So I wanted to leave plenty of time for questions to talk about your marketing outline, your brand promise. I got some feedback last time that people needed it to be shorter and really feel like they can accomplish it. And I hope that you definitely felt that. I gave you essentially 2 different ways to slice at really thinking through what your brand promise is. Go through that story exercise and see if it helps you synthesize your messages. Because I could tell you, I found that getting people to think of it like a hero with a plan inspired them to sort of step outside of the box of their own business and really think through what makes them different. So just take the time to write a couple sentences at each step and see if it really brings you to where you want to be. And then the other thing that I'd like for you to think about, and either hit me up via email or write the team here about what is on your mind the most for 2020. Because I really want, as we go through all the other steps, we're going to start getting a lot more specific. We're going to talk about your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We're going to talk about priority setting with digital marketing, because there's so many things you could be doing that we need to understand sort of what is most important to you. And I want to hear the variations so that I can tailor it, because there's going to be a subset of you that are trying to stay afloat or open, or are trying to reinvent yourself with the new economy post-COVID or during COVID. There's going to be some of you that are looking for growth. There are some of you that are going to be looking to establish yourself. You're new, you're a startup, or you're brand new, and you want to really, how do I set my priorities? What's the most important thing for me to establish myself and your presence and your footprint? By the way, Google My Business was a great piece of advice from Rich and should be on your list there. So let me know where you're at, or what is the biggest thing on your mind for 2020, so that as we start going through these other examples, which are, really strategic in thinking, I want to make sure that I can help break it down for each of you in where you are and reach you where you are so you feel it. So I'm going to actually, in a second, pull up my email address, but I'm also putting it here in the chat box so that you can let me know where you're at or what's on your mind the most for 2020, and help you think about it. And then make sure that when you're going through these exercises today, that you are really, I know I've said it 3 times, but putting it in the language of your customer. The other reason, like to relate Rich's presentation and mine, so you get a real feeling of how that all works together, the more you're in the language of your customer, the more it will surprise and delight them, the more they'll relate to what you're saying, but also the more closely you will match what they type into a search box. And so that makes a huge difference in terms of being relevant and being found, and optimizing your presence in everything that you do to work for you. And I have this example, and I'm sorry I didn't make a slide of it, but I had a Fitbit. So I'll start just really quickly. I had my Fitbit, and it was starting to get dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. And so I wrote Fitbit customer support and trying to figure out, and I was on all the forums trying to figure out, is there some setting, is there something I'm supposed to do? And the answer they gave me was, hey, you know what? You've had it for 18 months. You got to buy a new one. And I was like, ugh. And normally I'd be depressed about this, but they instantly sent me a link, and they said, because you've been a valued customer, we're going to give you 30% off. And I still could have been annoyed, but instead I started shopping for a new Fitbit, and I was like, oh, ooh. And I chose one, and I ordered it. And they instantly wrote me back, and they said, instead of saying, thank you for your order, or order confirmation, your order has been placed. That's not what they said. They said, we are so excited, and we know you are too. You got your new Fitbit, and it's on the way. Like, it was just totally written in this exciting voice. And they know, anybody who uses a Fitbit is really just trying to measure data every day. And so they all know we're data nerds. And so they wrote it in that language, and it made it so much more remarkable. I'll try to remember to share that one next week so that you can see it. But use your customer's language, not yours. And you'll find that the tone that you'll set is much more relevant. So I'll make sure that all of you get a copy of today's presentation so that you can do your homework and go through your process. And when you think about all the great stuff that you learned from Rich today, think about which ones you think, or where are the priorities, like where is your head at, so that we can tailor and help you really make your plan and your goal setting as relevant as possible. It will also impact which tactics you choose to do when. So I hope that you all take some time to reach out, let me know about your priorities, go through that brand exercise. And then I also gave you a couple other reading examples that I think will be helpful for you. Like if you saw the Harley Davidson one and you want to see some other companies and what theirs are like, I gave you 2 documents here that I think have 15 different examples between them. So you could just get some more inspiration to inform your own activities. So with that, I think we're a few minutes early. If any of you have any questions now, hit me up. Otherwise, drop me an email and I'll make sure we accommodate them. Oops, looks like this is fun.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Shannon. We really appreciate that.